The Shepnaz podcast begins now.
You're listening to the Shepnaz podcast, a podcast at Shepherd Church. Everything we do here is to connect our community in a meaningful relationship with Christ, and we're expecting great things. My name is Joey. I'm one of the pastors here, and I get to host this podcast. And today, I'm joined by Pastor Dan Stiers, a retired pastor that happens to attend here at Shepherd, and he brought the word this past Sunday. And we're going to talk about that, and also a little bit about his life, his ministry, and all sorts of things. So thanks for being here. And Pastor Dan, welcome in, man.
Hey, I'm glad to be here.
Yeah.
Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, of course. We love having new people on the podcast, and I love it being able to have different voices on the platform to preach out of God's word.
Oh, that's been amazing.
Yeah.
You know, that I've been able to experience that for the last, almost 3 months.
Yeah. We've had...
Man, I mean, what gifted people we have that can speak God's word.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So before we dive into the message, let's talk about you, because there's a lot of people who are watching this who might not know you. They might see you around when they're at church, but they might not know you personally. So let's give us a little bit of a, hey, I'm Dan, and this is kind of who I am. You've been a pastor for a long time.
I have been a pastor now. This month will be 50 years that I have been in full-time ministry.
All right.
Yeah.
And so that has been... I probably can't get your whole bio.
No.
But what are some highlights of that ministry journey, some places that you've served that you just recall fondly, and we can just leave some of the hurt out because we've all been there.
When I graduated from seminary, Wesley Biblical Seminary in Jackson, Mississippi, and I came home, one of the first people that approached me to serve on staff was John Maxwell. And I served with John for a couple years before I felt the calling of the Lord to go out and be my own pastor in another church. And so we went to Urbana. From there, we went to Columbus North Church, which is located at Carl Road. And my last pastorate was at Pataskala Church of the Nazarene.
All right. Nice. And tell us a little bit about your family.
Well, I have a wonderful wife. Many of you would know Drusilla. We were married. It'll be next month. It will be 53 years. We will be married. I was married with her, or I married to her when I came home from Vietnam, and it was 3 weeks when I got home. I told that little story in my sermon on Sunday morning. But it was a blessing to us to have 2 children, Christopher Daniel, who lives very close to us, and Jessica, who is Jason Gleam's wife. And we have 3 grandboys. 2 of the grandsons, Lucas and Isaac, attend here at the church. And Aiden, of course, and his mom and dad attend the church at Pataskala called Impact City.
Okay. So what you guys are witnessing on camera are light bulbs going off in my head that I did not know some of these connections. Okay. So I'm thankful to hear that and to learn. I did not realize those family connections, all of that.
Yeah.
That's cool. And then you are at Shepherd because you are retired from, you're still pastoring. You still do a lot of that.
Yes.
But you are technically by the word of it, retired, and so you found a home here at Shepherd.
Yes. We came here about 10 years ago, and we immediately became involved in the church choir, which was a great ministry and still is here at Shepherd Naz. We also, get my thoughts together here, we are involved in the rotation for prayer and praise on Tuesday morning, and we speak to about 50 people every week there.
Yeah, that's great.
And I also have a small group, 2 men's small groups that I meet with weekly.
Yeah, that's great. Well, we're so thankful to have you, thankful for the opportunity to have people like you come and share their wisdom and be able to preach. And so we're going to dive in to kind of recap in the sermon from this Sunday. And we talked about the story a little bit about how you came to preach this particular passage, because we're in the book of Mark.
Yes.
And it's not a super long book. There's only so much to be chosen from. And by the time you got to pick, there was one chapter left.
Yes. And that was Pastor Rob's fault. I would blame him. But I came to finally say, well, the Lord really wants me to do this because Rob asked me, I think it was 3 times. And I said, okay, I'll do it.
Yeah,
the Lord's putting his thumb in my
Eli
back.
and Samuel moment.
And so the only chapter that was left was Mark chapter 13.
Mm-hmm. That's a fun one.
I really felt like, hey, this was a God thing because my particular interest in God's Word goes to prophecy and the second coming and the rapture and things, that deal with eschatology.
Sure.
The study of last days.
Okay. So let's jump in. This is a intimidating passage for a lot of Christians.
Yes.
And then probably a passage for non-Christians that is confusing when we have it. So Jesus here is speaking in prophetic tones. So can you summarize Mark 13 a little bit as we kind of dive in?
One of the things that we need to understand, if we could relate the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, we find that Jesus also spoke these words of prophecy, and Matthew, the writer, included it in chapter 24. Mark included it in Mark chapter 13, and Luke recorded it in Luke chapter 21. Mm-hmm. So when you find that you put all those together, you're going to find out that the Lord was speaking to a future generation, which I firmly believe, as I said in my message on Sunday morning, that he said this generation will not pass away until you've seen all these things happen. And so while we can't set dates or times for his coming or the rapture of the church, we can have a sense of a general information that he gives to us, and we're looking at a lot of those things that are happening in the world today.
Yeah.
Shepherd Church is holding a special baptism service at Creekside in Gehenna, Ohio on Sunday, September 10 at 4:30 p.m. Join us for this unique opportunity to publicly declare your faith in Jesus Christ. To sign up or learn more, go to shepnaz.org/baptism.
And so we have these things that are happening, and we're reading into this, understanding that we're not trying to number days, count days, but there's a mandate that comes with what Jesus is saying. And so as you talk about in your sermon, like, all of this is said so that you would understand this.
Yes.
Like, what should a Christian who's reading this, or even a non-Christian who's reading this, what should the conclusion they come to from these passages? What are some things that we need to walk away with understanding?
I am concerned, I think, with Pastor Rob also. Really, many of the churches today are looking at what is happening, and the things that we want to take away from that, from Mark chapter 13, is the facts that, he spells out some situations, earthquakes and famines and wars and rumors of wars, as we stated Sunday morning. All these things seem to be escalating very quickly in my thinking, to the point where Jesus said, and when we talk about the generation, he said, this generation will not pass away until you see these things happen. So we have to understand, or maybe study and find out, what does Jesus mean by a generation? Mm-hmm. And some have said 40 years, and you see, it happened when, as I stated in the sermon Sunday morning, Israel became a nation on May 14, 1948. Mm-hmm. And it's really important, I think, to understand that Jesus was speaking to a future generation, which would be, I think, our generation, that these things are happening around the world. They're just escalating, as I've already said. It just seems to be snowballing, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to take away from that, I would say it would be a great thing if people could look up. One of the names that come to my mind is David Jeremiah. If you have YouTube on the television, you can look up David Jeremiah sermons and find many of this or much of this information. Another person that I follow closely is Joel Rosenberg. Joel Rosenberg. Forget that other one. Anyway,
oh man, it's in there. I don't know what we're going to do.
Oh, it's already there. Joel Rosenberg is a converted Jew who is on top. He's not only an American citizen, but he's also a Jewish citizen. And he has a tremendous amount of information that a person could learn from.
Okay.
There in that on that
so
YouTube.
Pastor Dan's giving you homework, guys.
Yeah.
You have some homework to do.
Yeah. There's so much more out there.
And so as we apply this to our lives, right? So Jesus is teaching, it's to give us something to do, right? He wasn't interested in sitting in a circle and giving head knowledge. Like, it was for a purpose. So what do we do with this? Okay,
so the purpose that I sense very deeply and strongly is that there's so many people, even within the church, that are unaware of this prophecy and what's going to be happening in the future or happening even now as we speak. That how do we reach the unbeliever? How do we sense a strong urgency as Christian believers, has been preached many times from our pulpit? How do we reach the unsaved? Yeah. How do we get them to understand what is coming? Because if we do that, then they're going to pay attention and say, okay, I've got to take note of what's going on or what will happen.
Yeah. We talked about it Sunday night at our volunteer meeting that we really feel as a pastoral staff that a renewed sense of evangelism has to be kind of rebirthed here. Yes. And that for a long time we've just sort of lost that evangelistic invitational culture of being able to go and to tell and to invite and to proclaim. One of my favorite verses we use for kids' church all the time is in Psalm 78 that says, we will not hide these truths from our children, that will tell the next generation the glorious deeds of the Lord. And that's this renewed sense of evangelism. When I look at end times prophecies and things like that, that's where my head goes, is this is so that we have this mandate to go and tell. Because we don't know, like you said, we're not putting a date on this. We don't know. We don't know what it's going to be. So what would you? So that's the mandate. So where would you want people to kind of start?
Prayerfully get the burden.
Yeah.
The burden, carrying the burden for lost souls, reaching out to them. For example, when I came back to Ohio from getting my seminary degree, I joined John Maxwell on staff, and John was a very strong believer in evangelism.
Oh, yeah.
And so what we did was we had a salvation plan marked in our Bible, and for anyone that would study this and mark their Bible and how to effectively just talk to people about what's going to happen and this is what you need to do to become a Christian. There was a great movement of church growth, of course. Church growth, I hate to say it, that just for growth, for numbers' sake, it's for soul's sake.
Yeah.
That our church, all churches, need to understand the urgency of the day that we live in, and how soon the Lord could take His church out of here. All of us want our family members, our friends, to be ready. Absolutely.
Well, Pastor Dan, thanks. Thank you for bringing the word. Thanks for being a part of this podcast, and we hope that it won't be the last time you're in the pulpit. We got you back up there. So
Okay. Today is my birthday. I'm 76 years old today,
man.
so I'm pretty well finished.
No, not finished yet, man. Not finished yet. Well, that's going to do it for the Shepnaz podcast today. My thanks to Pastor Dan for being here. If you need any more information about what's happening here at Shepherd, you can find us online. You can get a hold of us at podcast@shepnaz.org. My name is Joey. Thanks for listening. Have a great day.
This podcast is a production of the Shepherd Church of the Nazarene, Gahanna, Ohio. Email to podcast@shepnaz.org and let us know what you think.